All right, all right. Welcome to the Quad Divas Radio Show. We have our host today, Miss Chrissy, the World Order. But first, we do not own the rights to this music, but we're gonna listen to Curtis Mayfield.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our session this evening on the wrong side of history, pandemics. I want to first say thank you to everyone for joining us. This is something that got heavy on my heart. I wanted to talk about, with everything that's going on right now with COVID-19 and with myself being in research. I actually did some research, and I looked at how many pandemics there have been forever, and not just health pandemics that affected the African American community. So some might think I'm talking only about healthcare, but I'm not. I'm talking about things like, for me, the transatlantic slave trade was a pandemic on Africans, which now makes us be African Americans. We don't know the number of us that died on those ships on the way over here, died during slavery, just being taken away from our land. Up to 1918, when we had the flu epidemic. And we actually, back then, started our own stuff. We got our own hospitals and stuff going, but they still kept us built up with, all the other roadblocks that they want to put out there for us, with healthcare. So we were still behind the eight ball during that outbreak, even though we had lower numbers during that influenza epidemic. Then we can come up to a little more recently with the Ebola outbreak, not just here in the States, again, in Africa, where it was already wiping us out. And then we see that, as we know, they have, maybe not a cure, but definitely a vaccine, because the white doctor, he received it, after catching Ebola or getting Ebola, and he was okay, after that. But we always are the ones on the short end of the stick dying. And so I wanted to throw out the little history pieces. I mean, there's a whole lot more things like the Tuskegee syphilis trial. That was the longest running trial that you really infected these black men. They weren't infected with syphilis at first. That trial ran 40 years. And, you gave them syphilis, they went home, they took syphilis to their homes, to wives, had children. The children came out with defects. So you've been trying to wipe us out for a long time, but in Robin Harris's words, we don't die, we multiply. They keep trying it. They keep trying it. I want to talk on what we can do to improve ourselves. Stop falling for the okie doke on some of these things, because right now they've done this soft reopening in the state of Texas, and we have more cases. We're heavily populated in the prisons, and what are we seeing? Cases in the prisons. Well, they locked up, so who's bringing that in there? So I'd like to go to my guest panelists and let them speak on whatever ideas, or even if they don't have ideas, if they just meet with them and just kind of touch on this and tell me what you think about it.
Well, hello all. This is Alicia. I would say a lot of this, like when you mentioned the Tuskegee Airmen back in the day with the trials and things that they were doing, I'll say that there was a lot of people just basically were ignorant to certain things, just had a pure lack of knowledge. But now that we have knowledge of what went on with not just the Tuskegee Airmen, but several other trials and things that they were trying on us, we have to be mindful and take an approach to be proactive for ourselves, because obviously it won't be done for us. So I do believe there are far too many of us that don't realize the severity of things, or realize that maybe, like you're saying, it's almost like, okay, they're trying to wipe us out. At some point, we have to open our eyes and use the knowledge from looking at history to say, okay, let's make some better choices. I know I was around a few classmates, yesterday, and it was like, oh, no, I don't need that mask. I don't need this. And I'm like, yeah, you do. Because I think sometimes we end up fighting ourselves when we're not proactive. And there's so much out there, so much research, so much history. So we have to be responsible and make better choices. For those of us who are educated in certain things, let's spread the word so that others will know. Because sometimes people don't know just because no one's teaching them. But let's get the word out there and let each other know the seriousness of it. Like you said, open business too soon. It puts us in a tough spot. It really does. Being self-employed, okay, where I am, I self-pay food rent, but I know it's not really safe. The biggest way we know it's not safe because they're not opening schools. If the schools are not open, that means it's not safe. But they're forcing people to get back out there too soon. So I do think we need, instead of these protesters saying, let's open, we need more people saying, let's not. I appreciate a lot of the pastors, especially in the, I won't just say black, but also white churches saying, we're not open. It doesn't matter what you say. So I think that's very smart. But we just have to take a very proactive approach to looking out for ourselves, because it's obvious it's not being done for us.
That's true. That's so true. I want to make one slight little correction for you. Tuskegee Airmen and the syphilis trial are two different
things. The syphilis, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So, like you said, I want to make sure we're stating the right thing. So if y'all hear me make a mistake, a Freudian slip, that's what it was. We're not trying to say anything different. But I agree with you on that. Like in the case of the 1918 influenza epidemic, we did start building our own hospitals, and because with me being, I'm in research, I'm in the healthcare side of it, so I see how many of us are actually, like the techs and stuff that are in the healthcare field, and it's like, man, do we need to start doing that again? I mean, we can have Crystal chime in if she would like to on that one, and then after that, Nikki and Stephen.
This is Crystal. To answer your question initially, what can we do to make sure that we're on the right side of this? And I've thought about it so much, and I hate suggesting that we move backwards, but in a similar fashion to way the Black Panther Party mobilized themselves and put different leadership positions in different parts of the country, I think that we need to do that again. But I also think that we need to mobilize in such an area as to where we have leadership in the four main important parts of the economy that affects us, and that's financial, healthcare, social, and law enforcement, to where we can actually help ourselves and our people in those areas and not necessarily be dependent upon white government, socialistic classist people to take care of us when we know that they are trying to exterminate and eliminate us. We have issues like Black women not even receiving the minimalist of levels of health care in any area. Nobody takes our pain levels seriously. When we bring our kids in, we're being denied basic stuff. And I really do believe that if we kind of moved in such an area to where we treated ourselves, cared for ourselves, trusted each other more, and trusted each other with our own health care. Because, looking at me, listening to another Black woman tell me what to do with my body and my health care, I trust her more than I would trust anybody else, given what we've seen historically. When it comes to our money, when it comes to us getting adequate health care and insurance, we don't have any of those things. And I feel like we're more impacted by those things, not just because we don't have or we're uneducated, we don't know where to go. I also think another thing that we need to do is actually go and approach our leadership personally, hold them more accountable. When we actually put people in these positions to lead us as a race, from a gender set, we somewhat choose people to represent us and say, hey, look, we kind of put you in this position. We voted for you, or we upheld you and we supported you. Now we need you to stand up for us and tell these people, look, this isn't right. This isn't okay. I need you to take care of these people. COVID-19 isn't the first time. Just like you said, this has been going on for quite some time. Literally. And it's going to continue to happen, but I feel like we can reduce it. We can also educate our younger generations on what they need to do as well. But we got to start immediately. We got to start fast, because our kids are not going to have an environment, a world, or anything to live in if we don't start now.
I want to jump in there real quick, because you said a lot. We're going to get to Nikki, and Miss Cass is on, Honey Jai's on, and Stephen also. But when you said that about like the Black Panthers and mobilizing, that is so true, because that's where my thought process is like, even with politics, a lot of people, some of our own, are down on the Obamas. They feel like Obama didn't do a whole lot and this and that. But, how did Obama get started? Obama was just a junior senator. But Ted Kennedy, who had been in the game for a minute, groomed him on how to even play the game of politics. So I think we got to cover all those bases like that. Like you said, just so we can know how to play the game. And so I do agree with you on that. I mean, that's well said, and everybody has a place in this history. And that's why I'm so grateful that all of you are on here, because y'all are the generations that's bringing up the generations that we need to get this training going. And like you said, we need to get it going quickly. Miss Nikki, would you please chime in after that? And then, like I said, we'll have Honey Jai and then Stephen.
Okay. Excuse me. I've been taking all this in and listening to this, and I agree with that. But my part of it, or my thought process on it, is in addition to those things, as African Americans, we need to build up our own immune system. We got to change our eating habits. We got to eat healthier. If not, if your immune system sucks, I don't care how much fighting back we do. If your immune system sucks, you're useless. Because you're going to end up sick from even the slightest mosquito bite or a flu. So in addition to fighting back and taking a political stand, get yourself healthy. I'm short-spoken tonight, so that's my thought.
No, that's true. I understand. I mean, and that would all fall under, like Crystal said, with the Black Panthers, of the educated part, and like Alicia said, the education of our people. Because a lot of people don't realize Black Panthers are the ones that started the school lunch programs. Mm-hmm. They were schooling us on our turf. And then, of course, like with everything else, pale faces take it over and make it sound like they started it. So,
no, they did, and I would agree with that, because Nikki, like you were saying, oftentimes, we do a lot of fighting, but even when I look at those who paved the way for us, they live very long, legit, healthy lives, because they took care of themselves also. So it is one thing, like, you can get out there and fight and get petitions and everything going, but If you aren't taking care of yourself and your health, how long will you actually be in the fight physically? So we do have to, be mindful of that. And I like, like that when you were saying about taking care of our community. I think it makes me think of the whole like W.E.B. Du Bois versus Booker T kind of argument. Okay, do we just educate ourselves, stick to our own kind, or should we get out there and we take this to the world at large? For me, I don't want to do anything that just, I love my people, of course, but it's just my personality. Whatever it is that I do, I want the greater good to benefit from it. I do think it's wrong that we are held back and held down and looked over and skipped over. But, with whatever it is that we do, I think keep us, of course, in mind, but also the greater good. And like Nikki said, make sure you're taking care of yourself because we are responsible even for ourselves.
Right. And I do understand like what you're saying with the greater good, but I'll be real honest with you, when you really review history, I'm not saying completely isolate ourselves, but some things if we're gonna improve as a race, we need to start keeping closer to the hip and lessen the kumbaya, because there is that batch that's out there that is truly here to kill, steal, and destroy. I mean, even now with the current government, the leadership, all of them involved, they are strategically lining up for the voting in the fall. I mean, we are. That's why I say we're on the wrong side of history. We still behind, and yeah, the greater good, it will improve. Like you said, back in the day, we did actually take care of ourselves. We have to admit there's food deserts in our areas, where, I can't go to the Sprouts. If I do go to a Sprouts, first of all, it's 100 miles away from me. Then it's going to cost more than what I have in my budget, so we buy what they give us as opposed to, hey, let's start having our own gardens at some of these, instead of a mega church. I ain't being funny, but, quit putting concrete over some of that land and make a garden and let's grow some fresh vegetables, or something. So in my mind, which I know sometimes I can be a stomp the yard, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep some things closer to my hip and improve myself, because I feel like that's what happened with a whole lot of Black Wall Streets that came up and they couldn't stand it, and they burned it down because we did keep it within, they kept it within themselves. Look at the Asian communities. That's what they do. We will go somewhere and visit, and we go to a Chinatown. You know why? Because they're keeping their stuff in there. So that's why I'm saying, less on the kumbaya and build our own community. But I could have that wrong in the aspect, like I said, that's an opinion for sure, and a stomp the yard kind of opinion. Who's next? Miss Honeyjack.
Well, I want to first start with because of the side of the entity that I work in. I want to touch a little bit about what Crystal said. When it comes to insurance, I don't trust the individuals who are over mine, and it's because my insurance is chosen by legislators. So if the legislator decides that no one's ill enough, the insurance is terrible. But as soon as someone gets breast cancer, someone gets colon cancer, or someone is ill, the insurance is wonderful. It'll change in the middle of the fiscal year. So I can't trust people who make a decision for me in insurance, the industry that I work in. Secondly, when it comes to, I want to say it, and I say it all the time, coming out and actually voting, and stop choosing what we think is the golden ticket, which is straight Democratic, because some Democrats have been bought out and are officially, or what do you want to call them? I'll just say they're following the lead. They're just in a seat, and
holding the Democratic seat when they have a Republican mindset. So I would rather you being a Republican and you think about the people versus you being a Democratic and you tell me you're about the people, but you're more about what happens for you and your family versus what happens to the people that are outside. Remember, people are making decisions based on what they believe or what they feel is correct, as long as it does not touch home. And lastly, I want to talk about is teach one, each one. If, as you said earlier, if we all change the way we're doing as a race and become more we are the people, because at the end we are the ones who put people in their seats. So if we teach our children and our children's children, and even a friend next door who has children who didn't have the opportunity to have someone to teach them that, to get out and actually say something. If you don't like it, voice your opinion and do something. Just don't let it sit there. Because sometimes just sitting there and not saying something, I think the youth has a lot to say. They just don't know the way of doing it, or they just don't care because we didn't show enough care. And that's all I have to say.
That is true. That is so true. I do agree with that. Like you said, we gotta teach one another. I mean, anyone that was brought up in the church, and I think everybody on this call definitely was. You know that the older men, the elders of the church, are supposed to teach the young ones. The older women are supposed to teach the younger ones. It's supposed to be a never-ending cycle. God meant it that way. We stepped away from a lot of that, because the scripture tells us work while it's day. And, even with some of these politicians, I was having this conversation just yesterday. Night is falling on some of these politicians. I'm not going to ever dismiss, a Maxine Waters, a Eddie Bernice Johnson, a John Lewis. I'm not going to tell you I could be on that front line like John Lewis was, getting hit in the head with bricks and carrying on, sprayed with fire hoses, dogs put on them. So I'm not going to dismiss what they did, but night is falling on them, which means that their light is going out as far as not death, but just that fight. So, I'm going to need them to teach and pass along how we play that game of politics, or whatever the game might be, because it might be local politics, or whatever we need to kind of get maneuvered in there. That's kind of a segue into what I hope to be a follow-up to this segment, which is a seat at the table. And I'm not saying I want to be like that person across from me, but as Martin Luther King fought for, Malcolm X, a equal seat, so you can not only see me but hear me. And as you said, it doesn't matter on, Democrat, Republican. I gotta push you for who gonna do what I need you to do. I'm not sure if y'all are aware, but there's a bill right now in the House, HR 6666, which, again, for me, I found very interesting that all these sixes, where they're claiming that they can, we want to put it in the rural areas and in the housing developments for all the testing. And I forget, y'all, but we're talking like almost $1 billion they're talking about. It's a lot of money, because they don't have access to health care. Why you gonna go do testing on them? I go back to the syphilis trial. You used us as guinea pigs. When, if you have that much money available, then put the health care that they need, whether it's clinics, hospitals, whatever, put that in their areas. Instead, this sounds more like testing. And like Honey Job just said, that is Democrats majority that's pushing that one. So I'm not gonna say Democrat, Republican. All of y'all are being politicians right now, is what I see. So it don't really matter to me what your party is. Mr. Stephen, we've been waiting to hear from you. Got a male perspective on this. What say you, sir?
Okay, how y'all doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good. I'm more towards I'll speak on what you just said. He said, as far as with that new testing coming up and politicians playing politics, Democrats and Republicans all look the same to me right now. And I feel like black folks need to pull their money together, of course, pool resources, and start voting with their money. We have all this spending power. We can make a list of demands, things that we sit down and come to an agreement on, put our money behind a candidate and say, okay, or present it to a candidate and say, okay, this is what we need done. We have the financing for you. If you can do this for us, we'll vote for you. Because our vote means a lot, especially coming up in this next election, this election's period. Women's votes, black votes, all of that. And I'll speak to what Crystal said as well. I also agree with Crystal Landbed as far as the Black Panthers. I really agree with a lot of what they've done or whatever, even coming together and just doing everything that they did, starting the free lunch program. And back then, black folks had a code. We don't have a code right now. We don't know how to stay on code. We're willy-nilly. We're trying to get in with everybody. Not all of us, but a lot of us. Also, I like the way back in the day, the way Malcolm X and the Muslims moved, Elijah Muhammad. Even right now, Farrakhan says a lot of stuff. You might not like him, but shoot, that man speaks a lot of truth. So there's a lot of information out here that black folks can, get up on, but you have to be open to. It's not from lack of knowing. We got the internet right at the tip of our fingers of how they're able to just, do testing on us. And I remember I was reading as far as ghettos starting or whatnot, which was kind of going to what you just said, Zed, as far as with them starting up that HN 6666, and that's too many sixes for me. It really is. I am a religious person.
Right.
Remember the ghettos that started World War II with the Nazis segregating the Jews. It's funny how it's still going on now with us. It's like it's stuck with black folks. So we got to get out of our own way sometimes. So lift each other up, and we can push forward, but we got to stop taking 10 steps back when we do 2 steps forward. I was also driving around. I noticed there's a lot of small black businesses. If you just drive around your neighborhood, you'll see them. They don't get any support.
Nope.
So even if you got to go in there and pay that extra support, it helps all of us in the end.
That is true.
That is so true. That is so true. I mean, and I like all of you speaking on the economic part of it because, we got to face it for what it is. That is the controller. The Bible tells us the love of money. We put it the right way, the love of it. And that's what they follow. They running after it because they love it. Right now, we're being ran, really, the country is by lobbyists. Mm-hmm. They got the money. They got the backing. And so that's what's controlling all of this. I mean, like you said, Stephen, when we sit there, it's right at our fingertips. The comedian Paul Mooney said it best. Nobody should be stupid nowadays. We got Google.
Right.
Don't add to the stuff.
Yeah.
They a lot of us hated on Bill Cosby years back when he was saying our spending power. Stop going out and buying little Junebug Air Jordans, paying $100 shoes on this baby's feet, and you ain't putting $10 aside, as Crystal said a few segments back, about for their college fund. But they were angry at that man for telling the truth. He was telling the truth. And like he said, he wasn't saying you couldn't buy Junebugs, some little Michael Jordan, but don't get them damn boys on discount for $19.99. They ain't got to have the latest one because he ain't Michael Jordan or she ain't Michael Jordan. God knows everybody on this call know how I love my shoes, but Michael Jordan ain't paying to keep these lights on. He ain't feeding my back behind. he ain't doing nothing. He ain't nibbling on my ear to satisfy me. So, it's like, come on. Why am I going to give all of that money to him? Because that's what he's doing.
What you say, Alicia?
I looked at Atlanta. You see that when that governor of Atlanta could care less about them black folks, so he was ready to reopen.
Yeah.
And all of us that rushed out to buy the latest Jordan, no social distancing because y'all packed in there like sardines. So we gotta be wiser. We gotta quit attacking one another, like you said, Stephen. And all of you have said that. Will some of us be left behind? And that's in every race. I'm not just talking our own. Yes, we will. Mm-hmm. But you know what? We got to learn to move on from that one that, as Stephen just said, that's not willing to listen, be open-minded to the suggestion, and stop infighting. Because like with Alicia, she said about, for the greater good. That is true. Me and her not fighting on that. I get where she coming from. I done just, I'm a little bit older and crankier, so I'm like, forget everybody, y'all. But she don't hate me for that. I don't hate her. Well, that's how we all work together, and we at this table and trying to figure out what we can do. And, one thing I've definitely learned over the years in research and being in advertising is to reach one or two people, you might have to deal with 100 people before you capture that one or two out of that bunch, or whatever. So we have to work tirelessly. Because that's what I see in our ancestors. At one point, it was kind of going around that I'm not my ancestor. Well, I'm proud to say I am. Because my ancestors worked tirelessly. That's why we're able to do what we're doing right now tonight. They're the ones that got beat with them sticks and stuff, man. Look at here. I'm telling you now, I can't keep watching that with that young man that been shot. I'm told, and I'm openly saying it. I'm told. Y'all better leave me alone, because I'm going to shoot you. In the pinky toe somewhere.
I think it's just time out. I think it's time out for the turn the other cheek. And I think literally, like Stephen was saying, we have to fight back with knowledge and fight back with the power that we do. Because we have the resources, we have the power, we have it. But people are not utilizing what we have. And I feel like that's the problem that's really going on here, because a lot of people don't know how to utilize your power, what you have. You don't know you have this power. Like I said, that's what the teaching side of it. Like I said, with our ancestors, they're tired now. They're getting older. It's their time. They did their time. So they looking like, hey, they probably done told us some stuff, but again, you didn't listen. You weren't hearing what they were telling you. So it all comes into play. It's the black generation now. The youth is so caught up on technology and it's just all about what they hearsay and not knowing facts. So they're not looking at facts. There's a lot of hearsay. Said, because I did a project, and Chrissy could just, hey, I said, I told little niece one thing, and I said, go look it up and see if it's true. Because you don't know. If I'm telling you something, how you know it's true? Right. If you didn't research it.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to touch back on too, is that we got to recognize what's working against us and where our enemies are. And a lot of that comes in the same problems that our ancestors had. They were fighting physically.
Right.
We are now fighting mentally, socially, economically, and we got to recognize exactly where our obstacles are in all of those areas. And our kids are so distracted. There's so much propaganda, the internet, social media. I mean, they're using celebrities to push false information and fear. Oh my God. I saw a black guy cycling on one of the trails that I run on. I wanted to hug him and say, man, be safe.
Right.
I don't know this man from a can of beans, but I wanted to hug him and say, be safe, because we are in danger, and seeing it every day, even though it's always happened, it's that we're seeing it more and more. It's in our face, and guess what it does? It plants a seed of fear in us, so it keeps us from doing the things that we would normally do. So if we otherwise are raising a black leader in our homes, and our kids see this, that this man was minding his own business, and he got shot, our kids are looking like, we don't want to do that. We might get killed, because that's the type of thing that we have to work, that's working against us with even raising our kids in a society of saying, hey, you can be a leader, you got to lead our people, lead our nation, and recognizing everybody ain't going to go. Everybody ain't going to make it. Everybody ain't gonna make it. Some people gonna get left behind. I'm sorry, I had to learn that the hard way. We're not gonna be able to save everybody that looks like us, and we're gonna have to recognize that everybody that looks like us is
don't
not
want to be
for
saved.
us. I mean, even the celebrities, even our religious leaders, everybody that looks like us ain't for us, and we have to recognize that it is such a multifaceted problem that we're dealing with. It gets exhausting. I admire every activist that I've ever learned about, read about. My parents and great-grandparents. I learned today that one of my great aunts passed away. She was 106 years old. I never got a chance to talk to this lady. I kept on saying, hey, I'm going to go over there and see her. I'm going to go over there and see her. But I never got a chance to see her. And this is all history died with this lady. A library burned when this lady died, because all of the information went with her. And we just have so much that we are dealing with. And that's why I feel like we have to mobilize in all of these different areas, and we got to hold our leaders responsible. If I have voted for Obama, 4 years ain't a lot of time to do a lot. 8 years ain't a lot of time to change the world.
Nope.
So given the time that this man had in office and everything he had to clean up, everything that was working against him, plus the people who kept shooting down, everything that he put up, we're going to shoot it down. We made it so hard for him. It's like, we got him there, but we got to keep him there. And all of the principles that he introduced to us, a lot of them aren't being kept anymore. But I think there's just so much work to do that we just get overwhelmed. And that's why I feel like we got to trust each other, lean on each other. And when we see people that are in a position to do this, uphold them. Tell somebody, like, hey, man, I know somebody that can help you get this right, and they look like us. You can trust them, man. We know the problems that we facing. And that's what Nikki said about, watching our weight and eating better and becoming healthier people. That's exactly what I mean about going to people that look like us in healthcare. You know what I'm saying? Trusting people out here that are personal trainers that are doing the research. And just because they're not sitting up in UT Southwest or they're not sitting up in Parkland, doesn't mean they don't know anything. Because a lot of times we only trust people in professional buildings, and we don't trust people that look like us because they're working out of their house.
Right.
So it's like it is such a building block of problems.
Right.
Right. You said a mouthful.
Parenting is hard.
Even with Obama, like you said, we gotta remember the history. That's what's getting me as well. We're not even having a good short-term memory, because an entire whole political party was started, the Tea Party. And Mitch McConnell and all of them came out and said, our goal is to make him a one-term president.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? When he won the second time, then their next goal was to do just what they did. They were going to block in every way that they could. Because tell me the last time y'all heard about the Tea Party since he been gone. Y'all ain't heard nothing. It don't exist.
It don't exist.
It was created solely for blocking him in any way they could. And as you said, everybody's not going to come along. Martin Luther King, the SCLC, they trained people to see who was going to be the person that could sit at that counter and take all the abuse.
And take it, yeah.
Okay, they saw the ones that was like me and Rochelle and other job them that would fight back. So they moved us off of the counter. They like, no, you better all doing this over here. But they actually rehearsed. They took the people that wanted to be a part of the activists and the groups, and they rehearsed, and they would have people yelling at them, throwing food at them, all of that before they ever took them out and actually sat at the counters. They had the people that weren't afraid of if I get arrested. You know, I mean, even like you said, Crystal, the music industry, you know, it changed it to where you had people like 50 Cent and them going, I got shot 9 times. I've been in jail for this. No, back then they was in jail for fighting for our rights. You know, so, you know, and the music industry twisted it, you know, for our guys. You know, you think about 2 Chainz got a master's degree, but they gave him the name 2 Chainz, you know, to make him sound harder for rapping. But we got to tell our kids that, hey, if you like his music, but know this ain't no dummy over here. Just because he got this name, that's just for marketing. You know, we got to make them understand.
Plies is another one that has actually 2 degrees, and no one would know he is that smart kid.
Right.
Who was that? Plies?
Yeah,
you wouldn't know it either, but yeah, Plies very smart.
We have so many educated and knowledgeable celebrities. I just feel like a lot of it, like you said, is just being used against our kids because that's not the side of them that gets publicized. That's not what they see on social media. They see, you know, rapping in the videos, you know, money, cars, and clothes, 2 Chainz. They don't see 2 Chainz that went to college. They don't see 2 Chainz that gives back to his community on a consistent basis. I mean, there's always so many conspiracy theories thrown out about Jay-Z and Beyonce and the Illuminati and all of this, and you know, people going, okay, well, what have they done for the Black community? It's like, hey, just because you didn't see it on a music video don't mean it didn't happen. You know, I think sometimes we got to understand, and it is hard. I won't say it's just that easy. It is very difficult, but so many things have been layering our efforts with confusion and lies much more than they were when Martin Luther King and Malcolm X was fighting for us, because they didn't have these many elements working against us. They were a little bit different. News traveled a lot slower when they were doing this, and now it's lightning fast, man. I mean, it's like somebody gets shot. If the person was there with a phone, you're going to know it before their mama did. So, I mean, everything is just happening so fast for us, and it's so, once we recognize that we under the gun, it's hard for us to get out from under it. So I just feel like, man, you know, a lot of it has to do with our kids and capturing them and getting them. Because right now, when I see all these kids at this park, no face covering, no, even if you don't believe you can catch it, just for a second, just humor yourself and say, you know what, maybe I can catch it, and if I can't, what if it's just on me, and maybe I'll take it home to my parents and my grandparents, and I don't think that.
Yeah.
You know,
and you know,
just being
I would like to say something. Yeah. I first want to commend you, Stephen, for being on the call. Any man that get on the call with a lot of women, you know, gotta be commended. But I always say, like, I always say when it comes to history, it was something that was said. I had the opportunity to be somewhere I was supposed to be, which was it was Men's Day. And the only people I was there is because I was making sure that they had, you know, their getting the food or whatever together. And it was something that was said when there was a women's conference. They were saying that the women always have auntie, grandmama, cousin, you know what I'm saying? They always had a woman to have a conversation about life. They did it while they were doing their hair. They did it while they were, you know, either scolding them or whatever. But these days, and we don't have that man to be there. I know a lot of young ladies with issues. They can't even make a decision because they feel like a decision should be made by a man. But I say that because of the simple fact, even if we don't have a daughter, women and men, I think we should still be that individual. Like I'm commending right now the Woman Husbands alumni. I commend them 100%. I've never seen us get together so wonderfully where these 2020 babies didn't get the opportunity to graduate, walk across the stage, or anything, that everyone from that alumni has chosen to adopt one and actually doing something huge with them. Either it's purchasing the things to go to college with, or like today they had a meet and greet, pick up their diplomas and their capping gown. You know, we fed them, they had breakfast and they had lunch. And I thought that was just wonderful. You know, starting like that, small things that don't even seem like it's
taking an impact, but those kids appreciated that as if, because I always didn't appreciate anything, and I want to take that back because I spoke that into the atmosphere. I'm gonna take that back. These young people appreciated every single thing that every alumni did for them. Even if it was just about a basket full of things they could take to school with them, they were appreciative. There was a time where I didn't see young folks appreciating. So even though we're on the wrong side of history per se, we are building a legacy because now our young people are seeing, becoming a little bit more appreciating towards what's truly happening because they're not the golden child. I know this.
Right.
They're coming out these days knowing how to work a computer. Keep it real. I've seen a child mess up a computer, bring the child back, and they fix the computer. And didn't even know what they needed. So
Right.
they say that they're now getting it. They're now understanding that the world don't owe them anything. Even if it was just that small group of children, which is 250 youth, even though it was just a small group, I think that today was a full respect that they now can respect real live elders, even if they can't respect the ones in their home. And I'm hoping I'm making sense, and I'm hoping I'm not even disrespecting anyone when I say that. Because there's some children that don't respect home. But today,
Right.
that they respect what people did for them, even though we didn't have to. It was chosen.
I think that what you're saying is, it does make sense.
I graduated in 90, so, that was the start of the new generation for us. No. 2020 is the start of the new generation for us, for real. 2020 is the start of a real life generation. Why? Because now we're being more knowledgeable. People are going to pick up things that they probably never read before and now reading. People who did not watch the news are now watching the news they're broke. People who didn't watch CNN are now CNN fans. And I say that because this year, like I said, if we may be on the wrong side, but God has a true plan because it's going forward to being a better unity. I mean, like I said, it's small, but it's something. It's a proven fact to see, oh my God, you guys truly appreciated what was inevitably the worst, graduation year. Y'all made it, it's like, cool. They made it where these young men and these young women were excited. And that right there it was huge for me. It was huge for me.
I do think that that's important because, like you were saying, I will say, as an educator, when I started back in 2008, I will forever say that was my favorite group. On paper, they were horrible. Like, they had records and everything. I won't lie. They were the most respectful kids ever. I loved them dearly. Over time, I think this mentality of, you owe me something, I'm privileged, I don't think that children were very appreciative. But now that this has happened, where everything has been taken away from you, you have no prom, you have no senior outing day. I know we had our little day out at the ranch and all that kind of stuff. We had a lot of activities. They can't do any of that, let alone graduate. So, like you're saying, when people are doing things, now we're seeing them becoming more appreciative, because I do think that this has made, hopefully and prayerfully, made most of them realize everything isn't promised to you. You don't know what may come up that could cause you to lose it all. So you need to appreciate the simple things that people do for you, because there was many years, so many kids who are just like, oh no, you owe that to me. And I think that is the problem with a lot of generations upcoming, is like, we don't realize the struggle. We've always lived in neighborhoods where you got Black, white, Hispanic, Indian living next door to you. We've always sat in classrooms with mixed races. But I think that's the difference between a lot of us now and then the older generation. They didn't have that. So they knew the importance of fighting for a struggle or something, or a cause, because they didn't have a choice. But that mentality of being privileged kind of snuck in, and I don't think many of us taught our children. Like, whenever we would do history projects or whatever in the English language arts class, I always tell my kids, look in your family. Don't look in a history book. Don't look here. There's so many people in your family who have overcome struggles and who have fought for a cause, like to show them that schools are only going to tell you the people that they feel are safe.
Mm-hmm.
You have to educate yourself. You have to do your part as a parent to talk to your children and let them know the importance of educating themselves. It starts at home. And when that doesn't happen, we just see a slow decline.
You guys are right. I mean, a lot of it, that entitlement came from as well. I think we, the ones that did come before us that allowed us to not have to fight as hard, then we started taking our eye off the prize and looking in the wrong direction. And so, the means are out there now that you're homeschooling and so now you having to own up to this, and you helped that child become entitled, because kids only know what they're taught and what they observe. We didn't know anything coming out the womb, other than what we observed and was taught. So same difference for our own children, and when you start making them hear you and see you, it don't mean you're not backing your child, but let's face reality. There's nobody that's perfect. So, you know what? When little Johnny, little Susie is away from me, they might be cutting up a little bit. Let's check it. I ain't saying just take all these teachers' words, because some of these educators is educated fools on some stuff too. Because unfortunately, I mean, each generation is having more and more to fight against. Schoolhouses and everything else with some of these crazy nuts. But like y'all are saying, is that entitlement issue. We gotta, I think they're opening up and seeing and realizing, what is it, Adele Turner, where all those black dads would come up there, just volunteer. Nobody asked them nothing. And they would be out there and walking them kids in school, which covers children who don't have the dad. But they see that positive male role figure. And Honey John, you touched on it and took it before I could even say it. I appreciated Stephen being on here. Just even for the listeners to hear that male voice. People don't understand. We got women's livers and we did need to improve things, but God set this up like this where these men supposed to be in the role. If you find one you want to follow, see, that's the difference. You gotta know, he gotta know and have some direction too, so that you can follow in the right direction. So, but I mean, I kept y'all on here longer than I had originally told you. I want to let my panel wrap it up for me, because we're gonna go out with Robin Harris. We don't die, we multiply, because we still gonna do this doggone thing. That's why I titled it On the Wrong Side of History, but also wanted to show how, even though they keep trying to push us on that wrong side, we are some resilient people, because we are God's people. And so I definitely feel like we can get this together. The batch of us that can, even on this panel, we reach out and touch a neighbor's kid, as y'all said. If you don't have kids of your own, y'all know I'm always there for the babies. So, I mess up and spoil them, but But I want to wrap up with, we will start it off the way it was before. We'll go with Miss Alicia, Crystal, Miss Nikki, Honey Jai, and wrap it up with that man force, Mr. Stephen, okay? Y'all go in that order for me and just give your final thoughts of what y'all think on whatever, how we might can do this, what inspire somebody to do something different.
I would say that overall, let's take care of ourselves, take things more serious, be proactive in educating ourselves on what's really going on, and hopefully and prayerfully get rid of the spirit of quitting. I think we have too many quitters nowadays, and people who are not really, really, truly in the fight and willing to stick in there through the thick and the thin. It's too much of that, and when that happens, our children see it, so we're teaching them to give up. But there are some things that are definitely worth fighting for, and with everything going on, this is most certainly a cause to be fighting for and to educate yourself over and just be determined that I'm going to make a difference, whether the whole world knows about it or just the 3 or 4 people on my block. I'm going to do something different to make a change.
All right, Miss
I
Crystal.
think this is Crystal.
And we found out we have another caller, y'all. So after Stephen, we'll have the caller, also Miss Kelby.
Okay, this is Crystal. I think one of the things that I want to do is this year is focus on trying to educate some of my peers on local government and how we need to be more mindful of the elected officials that we have in our city and our community. I don't think we understand just exactly how important those votes and those seats affect our children's school boards, real estate taxes, property zoning, what stores, schools, and everything gets opened up in our communities, police funding. We got to start, like, you know, at the most closest point to us. And I think that one of the things that I just failed to even realize, even when I was in high school, is, you know, when we look at how run down our schools are and how so much, how that there's such a lack of resources for our kids in our city schools in comparison to the suburbs and moving up north, and how much more resources and equipment and newer those schools are. A lot of it has to do with the amount of money that gets circulated into our communities and the people that we have appointed in local leadership that lobby for such amenities for our kids. I really do want to get more involved in that and educating myself so that I can go to these places, and the people that I've graduated with, the people that have, you know, upheld me. Shout out to Paul Quinn College in the Deltas, who really did help raise me, to show them that, hey, this is what I've learned and this is what works for us, and we got to start in this immediate area because this is where we live every day. This is where we pay taxes. This is where we go to work, and this is where we send our kids to school every day. This is where we have to start. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do this year.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful. Miss Nikki?
Okay, again, mine will be a little short and sweet. We're all speaking on educating. So another thing that I feel like we need to educate our children, our young people on, is being self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. Start a business so you don't have to work for anybody. Figure out something that you can do, or your child, or your family can do to better not only yourself and your family, but your community, so that you can offer other people jobs, other people in your own community jobs. Learn learn the financial side of things, learn the business side, learn the credit side, because all of that is because of the society that we live in. All of that is important.
That's right. To kind of piggyback on that, we're going to have to teach them how to do some of that too, though. Right. So, like in our different groups, you know, we're going to have to put some stuff out there to help them know how to even get started, because some of them don't even recognize how talented they are. Because I guarantee you, our prisons are filled with some really talented brothers that nobody bothered to tap into their talent. Mm-hmm. Ms. Honeyja, on you.
I think if we all just take the opportunity, even if we're speaking right now, taking the opportunity, and even if we see someone who looks like a lost cause, see the good in them, and if you get an opportunity to touch them with good words, positive words, speaking into the atmosphere, so to do something different, because they are our future. And I don't want to wake up one day and get destroyed by someone who really didn't care because we didn't teach them how to care. That's my opinion.
Well said. Well said. Mr. Stephen, we're going to let you wrap it up for us because I think our caller is not on the line. But we'll let you wrap it up. As the man, please take us home.
She's still on the line. I'm sorry.
Okay.
She's on the line? Okay.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, Steve, we're going to have you wrap it up for us, so we'll go to Miss Kelby. What I know I pushed you out. I didn't realize you were there. I apologize for that. We're kind of wrapping up on the wrong side of history with these pandemics, but how we as a people can continue to improve because we were not really on the wrong side. We've done a lot throughout time where we kept striving and such things like Black Wall Street, starting our own hospitals, things of that nature. So we're now wrapping up with what we can move forward with trying to help teach our kids and do for ourselves.
I think that everyone did a great job just hitting on everything. We can just start with the simple basics like customs and courtesies and just learning your own history. Know who you are. Know who your family was. There are homes that you can go to that are greater than 100 years old. They can show the crust of their family where they came from. If you can just put a little bit more energy in learning who you are in our youth, it instills pride in where you come from. We went from property to the plight of the Black man and woman. If anybody can say that it can be done, it's the youth of our future. We just have to take them back to ground zero. It still us to grow up with the mindset that some of our families had. We don't have to take away from that in its entirety. There's nothing like spare the rod and spoil the child. Just to be gentler with it, just to show them that everything that you do in life has consequences. So I think everything that everyone said tonight sounds great. I just can't wait to get on board with it.
Wow, very well said, and I love when you said the pride. And again, my apologies. I did not realize you were on board, but trust me, there will be a follow-up call to seat at the table, and I will definitely make sure you're at that table because I want to hear your input for that as well. Mr. Stephen, we're going to have that man wrap it up for us to just show that positive male figure that they want to claim is not out there, but yet that's why they keep trying to kill y'all. So please, come on with it.
Yeah, that's true. I see them every day. There's a room full of them, a building full of them. I'm like, I always nudge them and tell them, like, man, I thought we didn't exist. We all in here. You got daddy, daughter dancing. Even at every Sunday at church. Or just any gathering or whatever. The cameras don't show up for that. But
right.
I'll go ahead and say, as far as wrong side of history, we have been on the wrong side of history, but we have done, speaking of what Ben said, as far as we have been on the right side of history with all that we have contributed to this country, and they know it. They know our history better than we do. So what I would suggest is that everybody take time out to learn your history, learn everything that we have attributed to. Like this country wouldn't be the country without Black people, and just learn your history. That'll build some pride in you, and then just know that your voice matters. Like I said before, don't just run out and vote just because somebody's Black or somebody's Democrat. Make sure they know. Make sure that they're fulfilling the obligation that you need fulfilled. You're going to put your money and your vote behind them because your vote, it means a lot. And then speaking of what Crystal said as well with the local elections, those are the most important elections. That affects you directly. So we need to pay more attention to that. It's just not presidential, mostly local. So I would just say that, to wrap things up, everyone just stay safe, keep your head up, and I'm going to get on the militant point. Arm yourself. If you're able to get you a gun, get you a concealed license, do it. Because it's a war out here, really. And stay on code. That's it.
That's true. That is so true. I appreciate y'all. And it is a new world order. Curtis Mayfield said it that many years ago, and we going to be that new world order for our people. stay on code, folks. Code don't mean, y'all know what code means? We're going to have a class on code if you don't. Thank you all for being on board. I appreciate it. Love y'all. Stay safe.
Y'all too.